order. It is Monday, October 24th, 2022, 6:02 p.m. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Francis Tommy Pollard, Michael Landry, Marcus Broussard, Lloyd Brown, Warren Gotchison, Natalie Broussard, Paul Landry, James Trahan, Scott Ronsonet,
Here.
Eugene Olivier, Brian Napier, Lady Fontenette Brown, Scott Saunier, and Chad Mathurin.
We have a quorum. Thank you. We use the same format as last week. I know last week was kind of long. At the hour and a half mark, we kind of started going into the weeds. So if we could stay focused, we'll get through this one real quick. With that being said, Ms. Segur, you want to get us cranked up? Road District?
Sure. All right, so we're essentially going to cover the three public works funds, the portion of public works that is accounted for in the parish's general fund, and then the rest of the general fund. And I've prepared some administrative adjustments, and I have those placed at stations. And as promised, I prepared the recap on the 4% and the 5% of the salary adjustments, and that's also at gestation. So Road District number 10 fund, main sources of revenue there. We do receive two sources from the state, severance taxes being one of those. We do receive that money quarterly. In the past, we've put approximately $320, $350 in the road district fund. The remainder of those severance taxes are accounted for in the parish's general fund. We usually get somewhere in the neighborhood of right at $1 million total a year. And then the other revenue stream comes from the parish transportation fund. We do receive that. It's based on population and mileage in our parish, and that money does come in monthly. So you can see just on an average basis across the 3 years, it's approximately $1 million that we receive. You'll notice a little bump in 22 in total revenues. If you look at the line item right above that, you'll see $89,000 was earned as a result of the sale of the surplus property that was held earlier this year. And then in 23, the $1.2 million, we do have $336,000 of a deficit that we budgeted for. So if you back that out, the revenue actually is about $930,000. So in fiscal 22, we have two hurricanes that we had received some money from, Hurricane Delta and Hurricane Ida, right at about $14,000. I think we have a bigger PW that's outstanding as well from Hurricane Delta, and the pickup of that. And so as soon as FEMA and GOSEP has that all reconciled, we should see that that revenue stream come in as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go through just the total expenditures as well this week for the public works funds, and then if y'all have any questions related to the operational aspects of public works, Dexter is here and he'll be able to answer those questions for y'all. So kind of the middle of page 2, the Marshfield operations are accounted for in this fund, and you can see somewhere around $10,000-$12,000 on an annual basis across the 3 years. The road operations, so page 4, kind of in the middle, $843,000 was expended in fiscal 21. Approximately $861 is projected for fiscal 22, so kind of in the same neighborhood. And then that number increasing to $1.1 million in fiscal 22. So part of that is associated with vacant positions. If you look at the salary and the benefit line items at the top of that section, there's approximately $150,000 increase between projected in 22 and budgeted in fiscal 23. And then there was a $20,000 increase requested in the budget in repairs and maintenance of equipment, and then a smaller bump too on the repairs and maintenance other. There was some money that was pulled off of that line item in fiscal 22, so then we increased it back up to the $250 that we've been budgeting for the limestone and the mix and sign materials and those sorts of things. And then if you scroll down kind of to the bottom of page 3, the third line item from the bottom, $105,000. So that was requested for equipment. And so then that kind of takes care of the increase between 22 and 23. And then the bridge function, page 5, 73,000 was expended in fiscal 21, approximately 80 for fiscal 22, and then an increase to 83,000 in fiscal 23. And then if you flip, you'll see the Manning chart, and then you'll see, you know, there's approximately 7 full positions budgeted for in roads, and then we also have some partial positions that are budgeted for there. We had done that a couple fiscal years back, and we've kind of kept that process, knowing that, you know, we don't have any new funding with which to create new positions. And then on the Manning chart, you'll see, following the Manning chart, you'll see the capital outlay detail. And then if you look all the way to the right, we used one capital outlay detail for all public works funds, and then you'll see like those 4 pieces of equipment identified for roads. So there's 2 trucks, a trailer, and an asphalt spreader that is an attachment to the Bobcat machine that Public Works has. So that totals for the 105,000. Questions?
I guess I can.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
I guess going to the capital outlay under the 4-inch pump on skid and landfill, why aren't we taking that from the solid waste fund?
Because it is for the landfill.
I know that, but this is coming from road district fund.
No. So that's it. So that 24,000.
Okay.
That is budgeted for in the land.
So it's being transferred from landfill to?
No, so that pump they're gonna use at the landfill to pump the water
on the
out of
right.
the landfill,
Correct.
and so it's
Hey,
accounted for in
Warren,
Fund
they
109.
just made a spreadsheet for all of them on one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, that's, oh, okay, all right, my apologies. Oh, okay, oh, cool. They put them all on one, all right. That's what was getting me confused here. All right, the 200, I guess I can ask Dexter this one. We show 149,468 under the roads and the signs. How much have you used of that 214,000 projected so far this year on roads? We got to be close to almost using all of that up, right? So that, I know this number is not accurate.
I can get a more accurate number.
What, the reason I'm asking is, I mean, we as a council and parish president discussed about $500,000 from ARPA, which I don't see, so are we, is that still a plan?
That is the plan.
Okay, so did we want to make the amendment that night? So that I can tell Kim so that she knows from the ARPA dot, well, I mean, I want to have that conversation now while we're in committee with the members.
It's the sand machine for sandbags.
I had the conversation with the Public Works Director on the way up. I was getting to that next.
Okay.
Are y'all still in agreements with the $500,000 to be moved and transferred? Okay, I guess we can go to that. The sand machine, I think we had talked about, was it 30 or 40,000 we was gonna appropriate?
Michael's still getting the number. Oh, Natalie's getting the number for him. He dropped a price on it, yeah.
Okay. Do you think you'll have something for the night so we can make the appropriations that night? And then, as far as the road district deal, so we have the additional, I guess people were offering to come to work for us. Or I've asked Dexter this, and I just want to make it clear that, you know, we have jobs available in this department, right? And we're putting them out in the public, trying to get interest for people to come in and see them.
It's not going too well. The hourly wages we sort of have, it's not going too well. I'll be honest with you.
Well, you know, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, the 4%, I think when Kim ran the numbers, was a little over 100,000, correct, Kim? And then that 5% was 200,000. So again, just for the record, I want 5% has to happen. I mean, if we can go across the board, 5%, 200,000 is very small compared to retention for these employees, or our employees, should I say?
Because we're starting to really lose employees.
Okay, I'm good for right
And
now.
as far as hiring them, for the dollar amount that we're talking about, it's not going too well.
The city losing,
The city's losing as well.
so you would add an additional 200,000 to this?
No, not to this fund, but overall, the whole consolidated budget. Because if you looked, and I was asking like to Kim, the jump from 4% to 5% being almost double, and it makes sense, the fire protection district already has, it set on the 4%, which if you notice, that line is gone, so the 24,000 would be carried into the 5%, which would make up a big difference. I mean, 200,000 over, what's gonna be our total bottom line, a $50 million budget?
Oh, it's more than that.
Well, when you start to add the one-time capital improvements, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just, you know,
Oh,
I mean,
you're talking
it's
just operational?
correct.
Yeah. I got that with me.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman, for a little while.
A little while. Anyone else? Ms. Broussard?
Kim, am I reading this right? The income that we have in this fund is about $900,000?
One, more than that.
Where are you?
1.2.
Fiscal 21 was 980,000. Fiscal 22, 1,043,000, and then fiscal 23.
1.28.
And I'm just doing the regulars. Like I'm not taking the, we got that 14,000 in the federal reimbursement. I didn't add that into the 1,043,000. But then in fiscal 22, it should be about 930,000.
Income.
Oh, yeah.
And we're spending $400,000 on salary alone. I don't understand what we're paying $400,000 to do $200,000 worth. I mean, if all we have is $200,000 or, well, a little bit more. If we have $900,000, we have $500,000 to spend. I mean, how is that large of a percentage of the expenses in this fund going to salary? Like, I don't understand what they're doing.
The personnel group is 169,000.
Yeah, where you get the,
I mean,
Unless you're adding the insurance and all of
yeah,
that, okay.
I added all the costs.
oh, okay.
I mean, when you add the salary, the insurance, the taxes, workers' comp, all of those costs, what it's costing us is $398,000, 397 cents. I mean, $397.
I mean, I can tell you like what I know, but I don't know operationally, like exactly what happens, on a day-to-day basis. But, when we ran into problems and had too much expense in this fund, and though, in the earlier years, royalty was transferring a significant portion, over $1 million into this fund. Council said, nope, not going to happen this year. We had to go back and, make some adjustments.
Is that where we made the percentage change in some of the workloads and some of these employees?
The shared percentages, so like you have secretaries that work at Public Works, so they do a portion of drainage, they do a portion of roads on any given day. And so at one particular point, we had one secretary that was accounted for in the road fund, one secretary that was accounted for in drainage, and maybe one whole secretary that was accounted for in solid waste, for all the garbage calls. And when we realized, okay, well, maybe we're not going to be able to do that, that's how we came up with the shared percentages. Like the mechanic and the mechanic helper, those two positions are funded solely between roads and drainage. So like the equipment that breaks down, somebody has to fix that equipment. Some of it is outsourced, but the mechanic is one person. Part of his salary is paid out of drainage, fixing that equipment, and then another portion comes out of the road fund. Both of those funds probably have equal amounts of equipment. And then you have, the people that actually work on the road crews. So you have the employees that are patching potholes. Sorry about that.
3 times.
Tongue twister.
Patching the potholes, and then you also have an employee that runs signs. So. Do you have more that you want to add to that? I mean, I'm not.
Dexter?
They work in different ways, you might use them on drainage today, just like they cutting grass on drainage and, paint the road. We don't have any employees. We gotta
You don't
show them
have
around.
28 employees.
No, and look, I'm not trying to say that it's a reflection of what y'all are doing. I'm just looking at this. I mean, that's what I hear on the streets all the time is, it's always spending way too much money on salaries and not enough on services. And I mean, this looks like when you're spending 40% on salaries, I mean, that's what I'm hearing the complaints about. And so if they don't have the funds to do the jobs in this,
Lay more people off?
or put them in the other departments where
And
the
then you're
work's
gonna
being
take your funds from
performed.
the other departments, so it's equal to being the same thing. So if you put them in another department, that fund's gonna go up. You only have 28 people, Natalie, where we have 62
Mm-hmm. No, I understand that.
people. So, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I hear what you're saying, I really do.
I think it's just disproportionate here. I really do. I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else?
Yeah, going back to that, the paint, was that funded from roads, or did you fund that from another department?
Roads.
Take it from Rose.
So that was part of actually that
Yeah.
That's part of
repair
that
and
too.
maintenance?
That's part of that 214.
Well, then you really did good, because
Yeah.
I know y'all spent a good bit, considerably a good bit on that paint to put on the roads.
But the thing about it, when we do things like that, we liken and slacking in other areas.
No,
What I'm saying.
yeah, something's not getting done while they're doing that, I agree.
No grass cut.
So now we
Well,
really.
I'm glad you brought that up, and me and Larry's had this conversation about us having third party,
Mm-hmm.
or getting somebody to go and help y'all, maybe just cutting those main laterals or the main channels.
And that's exactly right. And Michael Broussard is working that right now.
I know that's not roadside, but I mean, we would pay that out of drainage, but still, I'm good.
Anyone else?
On the professional,
National.
back
Bring
on
up my
page
page.
3.
Try and push it through.
The increase.
No, I was
Oh,
my bad.
what was that increase for in the,
So that's associated with the road striping. Sellers was,
so next year we're not
Engaged.
planning on doing it?
well,
We don't know how much for sure. You're right.
What they did, they charged us like 14,442 or something like that, and it was our understanding that that was for the engineer to come out, so we wouldn't be liable if something happened, if it was strike different, they turn around and charge us again.
No. What happened is that when we got the first charge, we actually thought that the charge was for all of the roads. And Iberia Parish don't have people that's into the striping business. So our Public Works Department couldn't be out there striping, putting stripes out without an engineer telling them where to put the stripes. So we ended up having to keep Sellers, technician or engineer on the job site the whole time we striping. So it ended up costing us more money than we actually thought. But you cannot put stripes on a road with a group of people and not being rude or anything like that, but when you're dealing with traffic control and stripings and signage and things of that nature, you better have it together, because if you go put a stripe in the wrong spot and you got someone like her that's defending someone that got in an accident, that's the first thing they're gonna look at. You know, were your signs in the right place, that you have the right type of signs, was the stripes in the right place? And so we need an engineer out there. So Scott, you're right. So next year, you probably, because we will be doing some striping, so you probably need to adjust that budget for some striping for next year. Because we will definitely be doing some striping. We have some roads that's nice and messed up already with all these holes, but at the end of the day, we still have to give people an opportunity to see where the roads start and where it ends.
What, the cost was per linear foot or something, or mile, or
No,
was it
the way it
time?
worked with the engineer is time.
Time?
It's strictly time.
it was also the deputies.
That's right.
They had the roads closed, and so they had utilized the sheriff's deputies, off-duty sheriff's deputies, that we had to pay a little bit to.
So at the end of the day, where we spent that money to get a striping crew, get a road striping crew to do that, you're talking serious dollars.
So are the
So Public
deputies
Works-
included in that line?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we have anybody certified in that,
To do striping
not just to do the?
and traffic
whole-
control?
Mhm.
Yes. Well, we have but that's nothing to do with striping, but we have certified flagmen and traffic.
Is there any course or anything that we
Yes.
can do to get someone to be able to do the striping?
Probably not for what we're doing, probably not, Natalie, to be honest with you, because you're talking about engineering. Look, I've been in the traffic business for over 20 years. I won't even go out and install a sign without an engineer telling me what to do, when I was doing that before I became parish president. It's a very serious business, and you have lawyers that love to look at striping and signage. You know, so I wouldn't recommend us using our Public Works Department to say we anywhere near close sending a public works crew out there to start striping on a road like Darnell. Now, maybe in a subdivision, we can do that. But when you started talking about Darnell Road, Troy Road, those types of roads, Northside Road, those roads that have a lot of traffic, I wouldn't recommend doing that.
I might suggest that y'all look into where we take the contract that out.
Exactly. I
Because
mean,
by the time you pay for the machine, the paint, the engineer, the sheriff's deputy, we pull in public works people off of jobs. We spend way too much on that.
Yeah, but you might feel that, Scott, but we spent $14,000, I think, to do all of, did we do 14,000 on paint for,
Darnell? Darnell
I'm
alone?
gonna tell you right now, you're talking serious money, but I have no problem. We can look at getting a quote for it, but you're gonna.
For Darnell
Just the
Road?
paint. We own the machine.
How much paint did we collect for Household Waste Day? Not to
So
be the
it's an
same color.
expensive, it's an expensive job.
It dries in 7 minutes.
But look, we have no problem trying to get quotes for it. We can come back and tell you guys what we do.
Mr. Guston?
Yeah, Larry, just as a suggestion, I think LCBG is offering grants right now for roads. While we have some ARPA dollars, we may be able to get some of the, I know it'll be limited to certain areas, but if we could get $1 million grant and put up 20%, I think we ought to look into that.
And we are. We're ready. Thank you. That's
About
it. Thank you. Gene Olivier is looking into that right now.
What Richard and, okay.
Yes.
We good? Mr. Trumbull?
Yeah, Larry, so the sheriff department charges us like so much an hour for a deputy?
Like $30 to monitor the crew.
I think it was.
Well, in that particular case, to keep people from 40 an hour.
Are we using like one of them?
Just off duty. One on each end.
One on each end, so it'll be two different vehicles. It's not
So
free.
Kim, with what we're gonna have left, the 376,
376.
on the bottom of page 5,
Right. Fund balance.
376.
Yes.
And,
How much longer can we go like that?
well, we'll have,
That's been since 2016.
Exactly. Nothing changed.
we're gonna have to cut back next year. The 100,000 that we have for
That's-
capital, we won't be able to do that.
That's
that's
why.
what
And lots of times, we
That's
have all
why
these.
that's why I suggested the $500,000
There you go.
from ARPA, because we knew we were coming into a pretty bad budget in '23.
I'm gonna not get a Senate for it then.
And like on the vacant positions, we fill one position, we lose another one. So those kind of like roll, so, you can see like the track record on the earlier years too. To say that we're gonna be fully staffed, for all of fiscal '23, I don't think that that's gonna happen as well, so.
We hope. We hope.
Anyone else? Oh, that's it.
So the 4% in the road district fund, so including both roads and bridges, $4,800 for 4%, and then $8,000 for the 5%. And to recap the fund balance, fiscal '22 began the year with 608. We are expected to have a surplus of 104, so that'll bring us up to 713. And then the 336 budgeted deficit for fiscal '23, that brings the fund balance down to 376.
All right. Next, drainage.
Parish-wide drainage. Parish-wide drainage is supported by an ad valorem millage. It's currently levied at 4 mills for fiscal '22. And the tax is a renewable tax that's renewable every 10 years. Tax is slated to expire in fiscal '24. That tax brings in 2.3 million each year. We also do receive approximately $69,000 from state revenue sharing. Interest income, approximately $20,000 between the 2 years. The mosquito money, so $900,000 is projected, almost $1 million projected for fiscal '22. And then we had gone over mosquito earlier because we have the $500,000 contingency budgeted for, so that surplus amount is actually lowered down to 611. So in all actuality, that number is probably going to be much higher than the 611 that we have budgeted for here. And then in fiscal '22, we had $87,000 worth of sales of assets. So kind of looking across the 3 years. You know, we have 3.3 million in 21, 3.4 in 22, and it's a little bit lower than 3 million for fiscal 23. And again, it's because of that distribution that comes from mosquito.
Right.
So we also had a little bit of federal revenue in this fund as well, approximately 23,000 in fiscal 22. Expenditure-wise, on page 3, approximately 2.6 million expended in fiscal 21, increased to 3.2 in fiscal 22, and in fiscal 23 we have 4.6 budgeted for.
But
So
that, most of that's
Change.
the contract payment though, that we
Correct.
haven't even,
Right.
we hadn't touched.
Right.
We talked about making that as far as cutting our ditches, keeping up with that, we were gonna use part of that money.
Right.
Have we got with Fistamaker to kinda start going over some of those things?
Yes, Finstamaker is actually gonna come and, give a presentation, hopefully in the next couple of meetings.
Already on.
Yeah, so the change between 22 and 23, so this fund actually has 6 vacant positions currently. So the change between 22 and 23, just between salaries and benefits, the change between those 2 years, you're looking at about approximately $450,000. Page 3, kind of middle of the page, the $900,000 that we carried forward for the contracted drainage work. And then right above the contracted drainage work, you'll see the equipment purchases. So we had no equipment that we purchased in fiscal 21. We did buy some equipment in fiscal 22. For sure, a dump truck, a tractor, 2 tractors.
Yeah.
And then in fiscal 23, we have $372,000 of equipment budgeted for a truck, a welding machine, a tractor, a trailer, and cameras.
Any questions? Come on, Warren, I know you got one.
No, I mean, one of the employees I was looking at, it looked like he declined the insurance and took FICA as just the retirement pension.
So I'm not 100% certain, you know, exactly which employee this is, but if an employee comes to work for us and they're over 55, they can opt out of the parochial, and that could be that particular situation. I'm not certain though. That is available, you know, not only, you know, here, but just across the board on the parochial.
I mean, I know we
So-
showed the $1.6 million deficit for 23, but it's really not that bad when you take the contract payment of 900,000 plus the capital outlay that we got proposed budgeted of
It's
what?
essentially what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again,
And then we know that the deficit won't likely be that high
Because
because
of
of that
contingency.
extra money coming back from mosquito as well.
good.
Anyone else?
So the 4% salary adjustment is approximately 22,000, and then the 5% is approximately 34,000.
I got a question, not against the 5%, don't take this wrong, but if that bumps your starting pay, is that really enough though? I'm looking at the salaries right here and I'm like, well, wait, 5% is not much. I'm
It's
looking
not
at-
much, no. You know, I don't wanna say all of this
No.
right now, to be honest with you,
I'll
but,
call you tomorrow.
yeah.
I'm just thinking.
We
maybe
need,
might have-
we can't hire Marcus for that, believe me.
Yeah, but
Marcus. Russo? Oh, no.
it's a top 10 player right there though.
Scott. I want to point out that I think Mr. Eugene
We
had
can't hire a mechanic like.
made an amendment last year to hire 3 positions, and then
Yes.
now we hire an additional 3 positions. So I think the 3 that you asked for are still available, and then we're
right.
gonna put 3 more on top of that, right?
And we're catching big time problems.
Oh, I agree, we need them. I mean, I was talking to Dexter off air with that. It's like, are we hitting the high schools? Are we trying to get those young people to come in and have the career with us? Because, you know, you get a lot of the people that's in public works that have retired already, and that are hard workers. But I mean, you look for the ones that are gonna stay that 10 year, that 20, 30 years. That's the ones we want, who I guess will accept, you know, but young people today wanna start off at 100,000. So, I mean, it's,
Me too.
anyways. I mean, look, we hire, and I wanna say this again, we hiring people, please.
Yeah,
I mean, begging them, you know?
I'll be on the radio telling them, we trying to hire.
I'd like to hear you on No, KLFY.
Oh, California, okay. Get a little television.
I'm good,
time.
Mr.
Anybody else?
No.
I'm glad you had something.
I was at a recruiting deal at McNeese a couple of weeks ago, and I actually spoke with the HR director for Calcasieu Parish and talked a little bit about it. It's the same story,
Oh, yeah.
same
All over.
issues.
Same pony down.
It's all over. So I mean, everybody's in the same.
We're
All the
gonna-
government.
Some kind of way, I'm not to cut you off, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. That's good. I'm good.
But some
Sorry.
kind of way, we're gonna have to increase current salaries to keep them, to retain them, and come up with a better salary for starting. That number that we're using right now from 2012, it's not cutting it.
Gotta get over McDonald's.
It's not cutting. It would be nice. We better.
All right. Mr. Olivier?
You know, for a short time. We were talking about paying overtime pay, for our employees instead of comp time. That gives a boost in salary as well. So it might be something we want to look at our policy, government policy,
That's
or
true.
maybe make a change
It's
to
not
kind
only-
of give them a little more incentive.
It's not only the pay, but from a utilization standpoint.
Right,
All this
yeah.
equipment we're paying for.
That's right.
You're stretching your hours, and your non-value added time shrinks because now your value added time has increased. So-
Instead of taking comp time, you got a man now working full-time on a machine 5 days a week instead of taking a day off because of comp
Talked about that a
time.
while back.
Right, yeah.
That's,
Okay.
you really need to look at that. That probably needs to be changed.
Are we a little handcuffed by the state retirement funds and stuff like that we have to subscribe to as opposed to paying higher salaries? I mean, is there
No.
some sort of limitations on those
Not that
things
I'm
with
aware
the?
of.
Well, we are limited to our manning. I mean,
So
we are,
Manning chart, yeah, but that's,
And our entry levels and
yeah,
stuff.
that's not, I don't think that
Not
has anything
state.
to do with state law or anything like that.
When we were in California our first year, one of the seminars, they were awarding an award to an insurance company because it was one of the states out west, Kansas, Nebraska. They were losing all their people, to the private sector. So they opt out of the retirement system.
Their
And
401k.
they actually started paying more per hour and started a 401k. And they said that was like saving those areas. I would think we probably would
And-
want to
and we
get a
talked about
committee
that.
together.
And that's kind of where I was
Remember.
going
And,
to. is if
just
we
kind
look-
of get some ideas, what would be out there. I mentioned it to one guy, and he wants to come talk to us
Good.
and just see
All right.
what it would happen.
Looks like we have some homework. All right. Anybody else on that fund? Go to sales tax then. Moving along.
Solid waste?
Want to skip that?
Oh, no, that's, I know. I
Huh?
said sales tax?
Yeah, solid waste sales tax.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah. So the solid waste sales tax is supported by 2 quarter-cent perpetual sales taxes. Both of one was levied in '82. The second one was levied in 1996. They're both for solid waste collection and disposal facilities. The second one does add that it's also an eligible expense is also the recycling program. So the tax is bringing in approximately 2.8 million. In fiscal '21, it brought in approximately 2.7. Then we have the interest income, that's added on top of that, approximately 20,000 in the 2 years. So when you look at our revenue stream across the 3 years, 2.7 increased to 2.8, and then in 2023, if you back out the deficit of 2 million, you're right at 2.7, 2.8 million there. So kind of all levelized. In fiscal '21 and '22, small amounts, well, a little bit larger amount in fiscal '21, hurricane reimbursements that came in. Each of the years, we do allocate money for Household Hazardous Waste Day. You can see we spend, less than $2,000 on that particular event. So under administration, this is where our garbage contract is accounted for. The bulk of that expense, that total expense is on our garbage contract. So you can see kind of in the middle, that line item for garbage, that is only the garbage charges. Bulky waste is the next line item, and then recycling. So just to kind of take those 3 line items, in fiscal '21, our total expenses were 2.78 million. And in fiscal '22, that number increased, the projected number, $3,099,000. And in fiscal '23, we expect that number to be $3.26 million. So just to kind of recap the actual price per house, we are currently paying $13.33 per house for garbage and $3.01 for bulky. So that's a total of $16.34 per month for the house, per house. In addition to that, we also do pay based on the fuel costs. So anything, and I'm not 100% certain on the floor, I think it's 2.63 a gallon. Right now, we at about 4.7. Like the most recent month that they billed for was September. We were at 4.7, but our highest this past fiscal year was like 5.17 a gallon. So going forward into next year, I budgeted for a 4% increase just on the actual cost. So instead of paying $16.34, that per house cost would increase for both of those charges to $16.99 per house. And I did budget that diesel would stay at about $4.50. So the gap between the $4.50 and the $2.63 per gallon would be the extra charges there. And all of that comes back to that, it's about 3.1. And then the recycling, some years back, the recycling was costing us like $300,000.
it was ridiculous.
So, and then, we've placed those dumpsters in strategic locations, and, we were able to, cut that expense, down to approximately $70,000.
What is it utilized for recycling?
A lot in Louisville.
Yeah, Louisville, I don't know where y'all get all that stuff.
We are green people. Green.
Martians.
So I have a question about it. All those cans that are at the airport, can we get rid of that, or?
Yes, we could. You mean like sell them?
The
You
what?
saying get rid of them or give them away?
The mosquito breeding ground that we have at,
Are you talking about sell the cans or give them away?
Something, I mean, if I recall,
They're
it's
still
about
there.
$100,000 a
We
can.
still, they're still there.
I think they have parish government's logos on them, though.
Right, they all, and that's the problem.
Put a sticker on it.
Yeah, okay.
Is that the recycle?
We could recycle.
Mr. O'Leary?
recycle cans?
Yeah, we actually, I know what he's talking, he's talking about the garbage. Huh?
The smaller ones?
No, the right beside garbage can.
They
Yeah.
were a little smaller than the normals, I think.
Corn flour,
Just
blue.
to
Well,
recycle them.
Oh, you talking about,
You
okay,
talking-
I know what you, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
my bad, I'm thinking of something different.
Anyone else?
No, these are rolling cans.
They're rolling
Yeah.
cans.
But it's not as big as the regular.
Not quite.
No.
Yeah, okay.
It's a little
He's
small.
close.
Can't sell them back
Still
to
got
the
one.
company and they could
We
just
tried,
change the logo?
they don't want them. We tried that years ago.
eBay?
You could recycle.
eBay
recycle.
maybe.
eBay?
Facebook
Let it go.
Michael about that. Maybe.
Everything's
You might
stolen
get
on there.
an
Anyone
hour
else
too for 'em.
on this one? Before we get in the weeds? The garbage, she answered my question as far as the increase, so.
You use them to-
Thank
use
you.
them for the
So,
work.
oh, you had a
Go
question
ahead.
about that?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, the other section of expenses that we have accounted for in here are specifically attributable to the landfill, and those operations there. So we are certified for the Class C landfill. So page 3, just to go through the totals, 21, approximately 300,000. Fiscal 22 stayed at about the 300,000, and then fiscal 23 is approximately 1.3 million. The reason for that increase is the legislation that was passed earlier this year appropriating the post-closure cost of $1 million on that line item. So I have that, you can see that line item was amended in fiscal 22 through that budget amendment process with that resolution, and I've carried that forward to 23. So it will impact, our overall operations. We're going to continue carrying it forward until, action is taken, if for whatever reason it would be taken off the books. But at some point, that'll become a real number in the event that particular landfill is closed.
Yep.
So, and there's actually a process that we have to certify to DEQ every year, and that's some of the information that's asked on that application form. We have to certify that, like we're aware, that there are closure costs, and those costs are actually calculated and populated in that report to DEQ. So,
Have to have it.
What we are? We're like 80-something, 90% full.
they just
When-
dug
when
another
the
sale
process-
though.
We got one, that's the last one, no?
5 more sales you can dig.
Oh, we got that many?
Yeah.
I didn't think we had that many. All right.
Very true.
We,
But this cell that y'all operating in right now, how full is it?
at some point, we need to talk
Yeah.
about garbage
Oh, not. Oh, okay.
collection fee.
All right, anybody else on this one?
So the 4% calculation on this particular fund is approximately $1,200, and then the 5% would be approximately $2,100. And then fund balance wise, beginning the year with 4.6 million, we are expecting a deficit of approximately 700,000. So that'll bring the fund balance down to 3.9. And then with the $1 million accounted for, the deficit in fiscal 23 is approximately 1.9 million, and that'll bring our fund balance down to 1.9 as well.
Mr. Landry?
I think is,
Thousand for sheriff, I keep seeing.
Yeah. Okay, so some years back, the parish executed a contract with the sheriff for trustees. So there was a handful of trustees that would come out every day. We wouldn't pay for the actual trustees, but we were required to pay the sheriff for the deputy that supervised those trustees. And then the trustees would work in roads, drainage, and solid waste, and so we would split that cost. And then that's why you see the 14,000 across all funds, and that's why you haven't been seeing the expense from those prior years. So that when they cut back as a result of COVID, and Larry had a conversation with the sheriff, a couple of weeks ago.
Couple of weeks ago.
And it's almost like he wasn't even aware that they did that, you know?
He's trying right now to come up with it's a little different. He said he probably won't be able to get the number of people that he had in the past, but he is definitely looking to help us out.
Mr. Landry, you had something?
We need
Yeah.
it. We need it.
you know, I think if we look at the sales tax only bringing in the 2.8, and then you go down to garbage, bulky waste, and recycling is 3.2 million.
Right.
I think that we all gotta start getting it in our heads that there's gonna have to be an extra charge on the people somehow to keep this going. You know, a sales tax increase is not gonna pass. And, you know, I know we got the million in there, would look a little better, but I mean,
So you have
when you
to have
add
the
up all
million.
your other expenses on here, it's, I always say it's a day of reckoning coming, whether we handle it, which I would prefer, than to pass it on to the council's passes. But this is the one that's probably the most alarming. Building is something that's, has
this one's gonna
risen to
get
the
us-
top. But I think everybody needs to start thinking that eventually we're gonna probably have to do like the sewer charges and things, and $13, $16 a month to the electric bills. And, you know, it ain't the nice thing, and I know everybody's gonna be on us, but I mean, after that, I mean, you know, we start cutting the contract and picking up every other week, you know, then you're gonna start having garbage in the ditches, then you got a drainage problem. You know, we lost that one business coming to town because, you know, we had a dirty parish, and it's not gonna make it any better. So I think we need to start the discussion, and, you know, I'm not sure when it's gonna take place, but that's gonna be our only way out of this.
That discussion needs to start pretty soon.
And even if we get a bunch of businesses coming to town, it's not gonna generate enough sales tax quickly to fill this gap. So it's just a day, and I would like to see us eventually buy some property. And, you know, we've had that video over in Jonesboro where the people can go and dump and bring their stuff. I think a lot of people, instead of dumping in the ditches, would actually go a little ways out of their way. And anybody wants to see the video, I got it, but I think that's the two things we're gonna have to start thinking for this fund down the road.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. Well, not really, but yeah. Anyone else? That's it for this one. The big one, general.
So, I have nuisance and public works pulled out, just in case, you know, y'all would have any specific questions, for Dexter, you know, on those two departments. So like on nuisance, we expended $20,000 in fiscal '21. We're projected to spend $44,000 in fiscal '22, and then $49,000 in '23. So the bulk of the expense there, we do have an employee again shared in that particular location. That employee's 25% general fund through the nuisance operations and 75% right away out of drainage. And then the bulk of the expense there is the actual cleanup costs. You can see in fiscal '21 we spent less than $5,000. Thus far, we've actually expended half the budget for fiscal '22, and I know that there's some more bills that are coming through. Because I have some that are on my desk right now, so that number is going to be higher there. But we do budget for the $30,000 each year. And then another thing, just to kind of point out, the very first line item is, the collections from those bills. You can see when I prepared the projection, we were at $4,600. And we've actually collected $8,400 so far this fiscal year. So, I mean, there's a little bit that's coming back. And actually, those are, some from older years. So, sometimes it takes a little while to catch that up. So, Public Works Admin, on page 20, on the second page of that report, $129,000 expended in fiscal '21, $136,000 expended in fiscal '22. And in fiscal '23, an increase to $177,000. The bulk of that increase is associated with the last line item, the $36,000, and then that was recapped on the capital outlay page. It's a truck, a replacement truck. So all of Public Works Admin is actually not an expense of general fund. It's actually shared with we account for them by transfers. 40% of roads. Roads pays for 40%, drainage pays for 40%, and solid waste pays for 20% of that total expense. Any questions?
I didn't think you would. Nope.
No?
Don't look like it.
All right, so general fund. So general fund has a revenue in the proposed budget for fiscal '23 of right at about $6.7 million. 24% of that comes from the Avalon millage levy. That millage is levied. That the authority to levy that millage is given to us by the Constitution. I think it's currently, I didn't write it down, but I think it's currently levied at 4.12 mils. Another significant portion of our revenue comes from licenses. And so if you look on page 1 of that report, starting where it says beer and liquor, so the beer and liquor is approximately $12,000. $750,000 is the occupational licenses, and $400,000 comes from insurance licenses. So that accounts for 17% of the total revenues accounted for in the parish's general fund. Fiscal 23's budget, 28% of that budget comes from federal revenues, which is higher. Well, it's probably about even with fiscal 22, but much higher than the earlier years. So if you flip to page 2, kind of in the middle of the page under ARPA, you'll see that $1 million. And then the prior year, you have $1,078,000. So $78,000 of that was passed earlier by the council to account for the increases in the group insurance. So there were some conversations when we actually had our audit about taking $1 million of the ARPA money and using that to offset the salaries that are accounted for in the parish's general fund. So that's what that additional $1 million is. So again, the council hasn't passed that, but I went ahead and I put it in the projections just so that whenever we got to the fund balance numbers, it would, look like it was intended. So there were some earlier discussions that we would take $2 million and towards salary and benefits. So instead of throwing all that in one year, we actually split it and we showed part of it in fiscal 22 and then the other part of it in fiscal 23. So of the 1.8, you got $1 million there. You got $400,000 that was accounted for earlier in the year by the council. So those ARPA dollars are going to the sewage district, and that money is to rehab the UL lift station. So you got 1.4, and then each year we typically apply for a grant on behalf of SMILE. It's a DOTD transit grant. So that's another $300,000. So that accounts for, approximately $1.7 million, a little bit more than that. So that's the bulk of that. There are some smaller federal grants that we have accounted for in here. SHISHUP, each year, Homeland Security gets money to buy equipment. That equipment is bought for on behalf of the parish. And then we have to provide for an allocation relative to law enforcement as well. So state revenues that come into the parish's general fund, that amount accounts for approximately 11% in fiscal 23. The bulk of that number comes from the severance taxes. So on page 1, and I apologize, like I'm kind of jumping all over the page, revenue-wise. But we do have approximately $600,000 accounted for in this fund, and like we just went over road district. So the $600,000 in general fund plus the 320, 350, approximately 920, 950 across the for the whole year across those two funds it brings in approximately that $1 million. And you can see we have the $600,000 accounted for. That money is received by us quarterly. In fiscal 21, we actually earned $745,000. But we won't know that number until the end of January. So I don't like to consider it, in the bank until we actually get it. So I tried to cover the larger revenue streams, that come in. Kind of everything above 10%. One that's a little bit lower than the 10% is the indirect cost allocation. So some years back, y'all actually increased that number. We were actually earning, the general fund was earning, approximately $250,000. The council selected to charge 1.5% of their expenses. Of the different funds expenses, and you can see where we are now bringing in 600 plus a year as reimbursements into the general fund.
Huge help.
Yeah, definitely. So expenditure wise, I kind of did the same thing. I mean, if y'all want to go, department by department, I mean that's fine as well.
I mean, if y'all want to, that's fine. I've got some amendments if y'all don't. To propose tonight.
I'd say we just go to the amendments.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it's up to y'all. I mean, if y'all want to go by a fund, then I'll wait. If you don't, then I'll just go through the few that I have.
Well, I have it expended, I have it percentage wise, and so I was gonna take it and just kind of give y'all the larger of the spends. But I mean, pretty much everything across the board, when you compare what was budgeted for in fiscal 22 and what was budgeted for in 23, very little capital. I want to say permits asked for approximately $3,000 capital. District court asked for a little bit of capital.
Actually, one of those, I'd like to up the district court one from 1,000 to 3,000.
Okay.
There are some things that they need to purchase within the court costs for judges. If you just make note of that. I'll do it that night, but from 1,000 to 3,000.
Okay.
What page is that on, Warren?
That's on page 5.
Page 5.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Kim.
No problem.
You were finished?
Well, so approximately 8% of the total expenditure budget. So we have expenditures budgeted of approximately $5.3 million in fiscal 23's budget. Approximately 8% is provided for in the legislative department. So that's approximately $425,000. So district court, district attorney, the criminal court, clerk of court and ward courts, if you add up like all of those departments, general fund spends approximately 27% on the court functions. 7 million. It's approximately $1.2 million annual expenditures out of the parish's general fund. 11% of the total expenditure budget is accounted for in the executive function. Another 11% is accounted for in the finance department. And everybody else is like, 1 and 2%, 3%. And permits and inspections is approximately 7%. The coroner is approximately 5%. Emergency management is about 5%. Let me see if I have any. So we do, on registrar of voters, if you compare projected to proposed for fiscal '23, you'll notice that that number is dropping by about 25%. It's a $14,000 adjustment. They actually had an employee that left their employment earlier this year. Christy had asked if instead of replacing the full-time position, if we'd account for just a small amount in the part-time salaries, in the event that when they go to conferences and stuff and like there would be no one in their office, they would actually be able to have, I don't think that they can actually close their office, but they would have a part-time employee that would be there. So we did accommodate that. You'll notice a large swing on purchasing, and again, y'all all aware that Michael had left from purchasing and moved to executive. So we do have that salary and those expenses going back into purchasing for fiscal '23. IT, you'll notice that IT is shifting downward in expenses from 134 projected to 119. And that is grant related. We actually had some grant money that were expended in fiscal '22 that we don't have in fiscal '23. Inspection, total projected expenses 319 to budgeted expenses for next year 375. That increase in expense is associated with the vacant position. They currently have a vacant position on the books, and we have the full position budgeted for in fiscal '23.
Missed it.
So we talked already about that.
We don't know if we're getting any LGAT money.
Sure.
We have not gotten the letter yet. We have gotten the letter on the CWEF, but only the letter, not the actual contract. So I think we've gotten 75,000 on CWEF. They've told us, Richard had communicated with us and let us know that we would be receiving $60,000, but we've not actually gotten the letter from the state indicating that that the award's been made. Okay. So. Y'all have questions about any specific category or department that y'all would want to go over, any line item?
I do have one that I spoke with Mr. Richard about, and I think I kind of briefly talked to you, Kim, under elections.
Okay.
In Christie's office of the $60,000. We talked about possibly having a fund, a line item for voter awareness.
Yeah.
For when we start to consolidate some of those precincts next year. How you want to handle that, Mr. Richard? Did you want to leave it under elections, or did you want to make a separate line item with a certain amount of money?
We have 60 on the elections right now.
Correct. And I think from what Kim said, since it's going to be a state election next year,
That should take care of it.
well,
I know what you're
we're going to
talking
need money for the awareness to let our voters know what's going on. I just don't want to get caught blindsided.
Is it gonna create a problem?
have-
We create another line item or what?
No, I mean, I think that we fine. That's what I had told that to Warren before the meeting. We have that $60,000. I've not seen a year where we've actually expended the full 60. You can see in last year when the cards were made, and And Christie had, I think, petitioned the council through a letter, and y'all had actually adopted a resolution to say, hey, yeah, pay the mail-out costs and use, portion of this budget. So you can see it costs $6,500, and then there was an ad that was run, I believe, is what the $900 is from last year. So I mean, I would think that we're fine, that we're not going to use the full 60.
Flexible for him,
Yeah.
because he needs to go out and make sure that the voters know if a precinct's
we
gonna be
will have to do that.
consolidating, he has the money at disposal, he can go out and make that.
So you think if we needed, Kim, $20,000, I'm not saying we're gonna need that much, we would have that right here?
Yes.
Okay, good,
Good.
good.
Mr. Trump?
Kim, on page 7, professional services, is Haney still being funded out of that?
Yes, sir.
Can you, say his
A
first
little
name?
louder.
Right
The, the guy give us the little
The calendar?
calendar, yeah.
Hey, I'm glad you
Got
brought
it.
that up, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. You got yours?
23. I didn't get his question, Mr. Chairman, about it.
I was wondering if
Wants
it
to
was
know if
still
it was still in
funded
the
out
budget.
of,
Yeah, he's still
Alright.
funded.
and it's still same price?
3,000,
Yeah,
There,
3,000 a month.
okay.
36.
So in inspection administration, the
Okay.
first question would be on page 14. Their workers' comp went up 70%.
Yeah. So, the current manning chart, the current manning chart that we're operating under, we have a director, an assistant director, and 2 office personnel. So, those being office personnel, their workers' comp class code is a lot lower. So Jacob is currently doing inspections, which is a higher workers' comp code. So going forward in next year's budget, you'll see on the manning chart, it's a director, a building official.
Yes.
I'm not sure exactly how I have it listed,
Yes.
but it's a building official, and then the 2 office personnel, the floodplain manager, and then an office assistant. So we took the workers' comp code and adjusted it on for the director, being that he is doing the commercial inspections, and then the building official as well.
Yeah, he's got to climb a ladder.
That's correct.
All right, so in the same category on the next page, advertising and dues
Okay.
went from,
So there is a program that Jacob has requested that we use, and I'm not 100% certain of the name of the organization. South.
South, what do you call it, South Central, the one out of Homer?
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
And so it's a monthly charge, so it's like subscription based.
yeah, I'm familiar.
Okay.
User-friendly for the people in the
Mr.
parish, so they
Epstein?
can
Yeah.
use themselves.
Just for Mr. Saunier, just for you, my man. On the page 14, under professional, we went from 180,000 to $7,500.
I see.
So again,
But that's not including.
we
That's
hadn't even
what-
had a full
No,
year
no,
yet.
what I'm saying is, you're gonna add some more people to.
You will,
Yeah.
you will, like she said, and
You're
it's
gonna-
in this budget.
No, I
You
understand.
can add another person, but right now, if I'm not mistaken, I'm gonna try to lowball it, but if I'm not mistaken, from last November to today, we probably, in fees, collect for us probably somewhere around $190,000. $190,000, where we used to outsource that
And still pay
and
for personnel.
still have to pay for personnel here.
Good, Mr. Chairman.
Good. Anyone else? I have a question on the justices of the peace and the constables. Is that salary set by anything as far as the
Yes.
state?
The state funds part of it though, right?
The state does fund the state supplemental pay, so that's $100 per month per person. So that would be like, we do get like $600 a month from that, so $7,200. Plus they'll reimburse us for any payroll taxes that we incur as well. But I'm not 100% certain exactly how that is set.
I was just gonna throw that out there, possibly putting them in the increase, because they burn their own fuels. It goes back to the cost of everything. Well, that's why
They're
I'm asking.
elected.
That's
Can
a
we
fight
or
in
can
another
we
parish
not?
right now.
I mean,
Yes.
you're not talking a lot of money. These people drive around.
It's not, but I will tell you, if you call the tri-parishes around us, Iberia's paying better than the other 2 parishes, just FYI. But I don't disagree with you, I mean,
They paying their trash though. No. I just thought I'd throw that out there. I was curious if it was said or not.
We can,
You're right, they burn
we
a
can look
lot
into
of
it. I don't
fuel.
know the answer to that, though.
I might shoot you an email tomorrow to remind you if you can.
Oh, I wrote a note.
Okay. On it. Anyone else?
I have one other question. On page 7, why you increased your travel budget about $50,000?
If that's what it's showing, yes. You talking about me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
your travel was increased by 60%,
But how much, how many thousand now?
44. It should be
Yeah.
45.
Yeah, because I have some things that I would like to send Bo to this coming year.
That's all.
That's it? Anyone else? All right. We went through everything. We're done, man.
I guess while we on that, Mr. Chairman, I did briefly speak with Kim, and I think I've had the conversation with Larry and Scott when he was here about funding a percentage of the CAO and the parish president from the drainage fund to reimburse the general fund. I'd like to get together with y'all before we get to consolidated budget to make sure that we can get that done. I mean, again, whatever we're comfortable with, you know your duties and what you're doing in drainage, and I mean, obviously, we can't look at any other fund, but just to get that reimbursement back from that department would be nice. And also, I had a brief discussion about the NGO with Kim. I'd like to get with you on that also, about an NGO funding. And I'm as far as the general fund, I'm good. I just, if we can make those, figure out what we're gonna do with the voter awareness, whatever y'all decide, just let me know. And then the additional 2,000 for the district court.
We'll give her $1 today. Let her adjust it. 50, 10, 40, 20.
Whatever y'all, I mean, I'm good. Go ahead.
Well, we're talking about the elections, and we want to put some for mailing out flyers and
Yeah.
whatever that stuff is called. Just give Kim
Bulk
a
mail.
number today, 40, 20, 50, 10. Anybody has an
I
idea?
have no idea.
For
what
bulk meal, you talking?
Not just,
I mean, you can, 25,
Yeah, that was,
25.
that was almost 8,000.
That gives you an idea.
but it's not just bulk mailing
There's
though,
much-
because
that's why I'm saying
you have to
25.
start labeling certain voter precincts, letting, it's a lot more than just running a renewal.
I would probably put at least $25,000. I mean, listen, if you don't use it, then it goes right
You're
back.
talking about for the election?
Yeah.
Why don't we talk to Christie and see what her opinion is? I'm sure she's done it before. She should know.
I think we gave 8,500.
So, but you're not just talking bulk mail.
But that 8,500 wasn't for the entirety of the parish. That was only for those that had
Precinct,
precinct
right.
changes.
Right. You want to go 35?
No, I'm,
During the year, we can adjust.
You
it.
can
we
always
can,
adjust
I
it.
just,
Kim,
as
can
long
you
as the
ask
line
her-
item's available
Can you
for
just
them
ask
to
her
go
what she
out.
thinks?
Yeah. I would, 25, you can always put it back.
And this
Or you
is,
can always
this
ask
is
for
as a
more.
result of the precinct changes, correct?
Yeah, the consolidation.
With the,
I don't see.
The
doing that much
redistricting?
money, to be honest with
yeah.
you.
Because it will change again. I mean, some that did, we went from 64 to what, 72? So we know some of those are gonna come back down, so there will be adjusted precinct changes again next year. And I don't want the public to think that we're not ahead of the game as far as letting them be aware of what's happening. Because there will be changes.
35, 25.
Elections, 25 for the mail out line item.
Oh, so you're saying 35% of the 60,000?
He's saying 35,000
And 25,000
for election.
Okay.
line item.
Don't limit it to mail-outs, but
Yeah, just,
if we have to close a precinct, he can go and make a sign for it and then notify those, because those mail-outs may not be a generic mail-out. They may be see fit, kind of like what he said. Christie would have to get the specifics, but at least have the funding in line so that they can go out and administer it.
So I know recently, we used to mail, like, you know, the state was sending stuff to Christie's office. Christie was coming to us and asking us to write checks to either to the post office or, you know, using our mail machine, to get what she needed mailed out. The state has started mailing things, and Christie was kind of thinking that we would get a bill from the state, but we haven't gotten anything yet. So
When
I
that
don't
would
know if.
happen, you would just draw from the elections line item to fund
Well,
that?
so this is new for this year. It hasn't, you know, we've not gotten a bill from the
Because it hadn't
state.
been redistricting in 10 years, okay.
Yeah. So,
So Paul, you said 25 what? 25, 35?
Right, 25, 35 election, 25 for the line item.
Okay.
for the special.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
At least give them an opportunity.
Yes. That's good.
So just to point out, I know we've kind of talked about it in depth, but on page 21, you'll see under roads, the 434 budgeted for the transfer to bond redemption. That number is going to reduce down to $222,000 because we're going to pay off the road debt in June of '23. Next line item is for bridges. You'll see where that number is increasing from 36,000 in fiscal '22 to 216.
There you go.
So in total, you know, it'll be about the $400,000 still expended out of general fund. And then if you flip to page 23, kind of in the middle of the page, you'll see another transfer to bond redemption fund. So this transfer, you know, we've not had any expense the last couple of years, and then 217 is being transferred for fiscal '23. That is for the RV facilities debt.
When is that done?
20, 30.
27 or 32?
I can't remember if it's 32, 37, it's 34,
It was
it's,
27, I think it's 32.
yeah. It's
Yeah, we
it's a
extended
good, it's a good little few years out there.
32 is both of them, the road and the RV.
Who's up?
It's 32.
Both of them.
I'll be dead in 10 years.
Yeah, bridges and the RV facility are together. Yeah. Okay, so to look at fund balance, on page 24, almost 3.4 million at the beginning of fiscal '22. We are projecting a surplus of $200,000 for fiscal '22, so that'll bring our fund balance up to almost 3.6 million.
Wait, what is it?
3.6 million.
That's right.
But she's talking about a surplus. We ought to be celebrating here.
That's right.
I don't want to keep beating that dead horse, but the indirect costs
Help a
really
lot.
sell you this a lot. Look.
Or you're gonna throw your
Hold,
show
man,
out
hold
here.
on now,
Well,
Mr.
so,
Broussard.
yeah, so we did have the $1 million of ARPA, but then we also had the $1 million transfer to public buildings.
Yeah.
You know, so those two
that's a
offset each
wash.
That's an
other.
offset. That's a complete wash.
Yeah,
Downer.
It
so,
was close though, man.
so, so since we celebrating the surplus,
Keep on hanging in there.
We can still make payroll, and that's what matters.
Mr. Gerb?
So we
Long
took some
way
money out of
from-
one checking account, put it in another.
so, and, you know, each year,
Smart.
you know, we come here, you know, projected numbers. Y'all know that I shoot on the lower side for revenue and on the higher side for expenses. And so just kind of indicative of that, if you look on fiscal '21, which had no ARPA in it at all, the surplus was almost $600,000.
That's it.
So to say that, you know, we're going to stay at this $200,000, I think that the number will probably be higher than that, barring, you know, something that's unforeseen, you know, and that could definitely happen.
I have one more question, I promise I'm done after this. We as a council spoke when ARPA dollars were coming in, that we were gonna lock up a certain amount of that. We'd never really came back to say what that figure was. I'm hoping that by the consolidated budget time, we can at least have that so that we can make it aware that we, you know, like our second little technical royalty, to just to put some money aside, even if it's $500,000, whatever we can come up with. To
With
where it's
everything
not
I-
just,
With everything I gave you on that spreadsheet,
Yeah.
we still have $1 million plus. That's not even accounted
Undedicated,
for.
correct.
Undedicated.
Not yet.
Well, when I turn it in. When I
Good,
give it
Mr.
to you.
Chairman.
Mr. Olivia?
We need to realize also that the possibility, we can get some grant money from the transportation package.
We're gonna need some match funding from that, so that $1.2 million might go pretty quick. if we can get some major projects
If-
in this parish.
Well, if you, I don't know if we should, if we can talk about this, but this ARPA fund, as far as some of the dollars that we showed on the spreadsheet, I think I showed $1.2 million still for maybe fiber, $2 million for some, additional work along Highway 90 for sewer. Those are just things I'm suggesting to the parish council. I think we need it big time, don't get me wrong, as far as the sewer along Highway 90, I would love to hook up to where Love Truck Stop is and run in front of Arsenal Ford going down. I would also love to go on the opposite side of 675 and go to Premier, because we're already born onto the highway. If we do that, we have sewer on both sides of Highway 90, which is extremely big for us. We have $1.6 million that we actually tied into Kotor Waterworks.
And that's
we don't-
just raw money without any,
That's right.
additional.
That would just be raw money, right? Yeah.
Right.
That's not leveraging. If I'm not mistaken, we're going over some things right now for the state of the parish, and I think we, what's up today when we did the chart, it was around 6-point-something million, that we actually, obligated, and I think we got around $38 million worth of work. So we're leveraging pretty good.
All right. You good, Mr. Gurr?
I am if y'all are.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need a motion to go into public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
I got a motion by Mr. Sonia. I need a second. Somebody. Second by Mr. Brown. All in favor to go into public hearing? Aye. Any nays? We are in public hearing. Any public comments on the recommended budget by the administration? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, if you don't mind, read the.
Says this work. Final recommendations of the 2023 proposed budgets as follows. A through FF. Did I say that correctly? These are all the budgets that were discussed in committee.
With that being said, motion to move forward?
So move.
Second by Mr. Sonia. All in favor? Aye. Any nays? Motion to adjourn?
Thank you, sir.